We're here today. We're going to go over the A.I.R method that I created. When I was in the mindset realm, right? When I first started out, when I met my mentor and he introduced me to mindset and I went down that rabbit hole, I was having those negative thoughts. And in that mindset research, I came across a study. And that study was from the National Science Foundation. And that study simply said that we have roughly 50,000 thoughts a day. 80% of those thoughts are negative, 95% are repetitive. And I thought to myself, holy cow, that's insane. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. 80% of them are negative. So I'm just in a negative loop, right? I'm repeating and repeating those negative thoughts. And then I thought to myself, well, what happens if I can change that? What happens if I can get that 80% down to 70 or 60 or 50%? If I can just get it down to 70%, I have a 10% advantage over everybody else. So then I sat down and I took a page out of the fire department. When I was in the fire department, you'd go to a fire, a job, and you'd come back, you'd sit around the kitchen table. And when you sat around that kitchen table, the purpose of that was so that everybody can discuss what everybody else did. Because there's two primary teams in the fire department. A team that works on the inside of the building to put the fire out, and a team that works on the outside of the building to vent the building, make sure nobody's hanging out a window, things like that. And each affect what the others do, and each have their own challenges. And sometimes, like one fire, I'm working on the inside, and then we go to the next fire, I'm working on the outside. So we can learn from the previous fires. What I did was, when I came across that study of 50,000 thoughts a day, 80% are negative, 95% are repetitive, and I wanted to reduce that number to 70%, I sat down and I thought about all the research that I had done. I thought about all the books that I'd read. I thought about the people that I spoke to, the quotes I had. I'll show you something really quick right here. This is another brainstorming session I'm going through. That's what I do. I write out Post-its and I put them all over the place. And then I characterize them. That's color-coded, right? I characterize them and then I can say this is going to work with this and this is going to work with this. That's what I did so that I could identify those things that I read that helped me. And then I started thinking about the times that I had success. When I had a thought and I was able to push that thought out of my mind. What did I do in that moment? And that's where A.I.R came up with. The first step in A.I.R is aware. I'm going to become aware of my thoughts. So I have a thought, I become aware of that thought. So how do you become aware in the moment? Because 50% of our day, according to a Harvard study, 50% of our day is spent in autopilot. So how do we become aware in the moment? We have to learn to slow down a little bit. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. It just means that if we slow down just a tad, we can become aware of what's going on around us. We could start paying attention to it. We could start becoming more intentional. The number one way that I've learned to become aware, the number one way I use to stay aware, is a method that was first invented, created, whatever you may, in Japan. The Japan rail system was having a problem with accidents and people getting hurt. And they created something called Shisha Kenko. Shisha Kenko literally means point and call. You point at something, red signal, stop, and you call it out. I point at the speedometer, 50 miles per hour, and I call it out. That's what they started doing in their rail system. They put conductors on the platform. The left is clear, the right is clear, the platform is clear, you may go. And this is what they were doing. And they saw an 85% drop in incidents almost overnight. So if it worked for them, why wouldn't it work for me? Why can't I slow down? Why can't I walk around and point out things? We could do this right now, right here, right? Light, desk, laptop, lamp, floor, ceiling, window. You could do it walking down the street. You could do it driving in the car. You could do it while you're in the shower. You could do this technique anywhere. And that's what makes it so powerful. I'm slowing down. I'm not just walking past things. That Harvard study, 50% of our day is spent in autopilot. You don't believe me? Last time you were in a blackout and you walked into, let's say, the bathroom to use the facilities, what's the first thing you did? You reached to turn the light on. And then you fought with it a couple of times because the light wasn't working. And then you're like, oh, I'm in a blackout. Who's done that? I've done that numerous times. I sat there 3 or 4 times playing with the switch. You ever drive down the highway past 3 exits and you don't even realize you passed the 3 exits? Or you're coming home from work and you don't realize that you don't remember getting on the highway or getting off the highway or making the turn onto your block or passing that deli or the gas station. We live 50% of our waking day in autopilot. This is a way, and implementing Shisha Kenko is a way of being intentional about slowing things down. So now we become aware of the thought, right? What's the next step? The next step is to interrupt the thought. So I'm going to interrupt the thought, and I'm simply going to thank the thought for protecting me. Our mind is there to keep us safe. That's our mind's number one priority, is to keep us safe so that we can survive and multiply and make more humans. When I interrupt that thought's trying to keep me safe, but I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to be like, thank you, brother. I really appreciate you looking out for me, but I'm going to choose to think this or believe this. Choose. I'm going to make the conscious choice. That's an important word that I want you to use when you're doing this process. I'm making the choice. You're telling your mind to start thinking differently. You're telling your mind that you're in charge, that you're not going to let your mind run off. So I'm going to thank it for trying to protect me. I know you got my back. I appreciate that, but I'm going to choose to believe or think this. So what is this? This is, I'm going to replace that original thought that's not serving me. And I'm going to replace it simply by going 180 degrees. That's the easiest way to do it when we're first learning it. 180 degrees. So I can't becomes I can. I'm not becomes I am. I won't becomes I will. I don't becomes I do. Things along those lines. Primarily, when we have that apostrophe, right? Can't, won't, don't. Those are thoughts that aren't serving us, and we want to remedy that. One of the big ones I hear all the time is, I can't do that. I tried and I failed. I tried doing that and it failed. We're going to address that on Wednesday. I'm going to be back here Wednesday at 1 p.m. to do another short segment. That segment's going to be on the triple F process. The triple F process is how we really identify if that thought is serving us or not. And when we do the replacement of that original thought, is that replacement thought a good thought that will serve us? It's a process, a 3-part process, and we're going to dive into that Wednesday on how we actually replace that thought, the nuts and bolts around it. Before we end, I want to leave you with this quote from Wayne Dyer. Dyer says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Next week, we're going to be talking about perspectives, how we perceive things. So I wanted to put that thought in your mind so it can ruminate back there for a few days before we dive into that. I'll see you Wednesday. Again, 1 p.m. Wednesday. We're coming back. We're talking about the triple F process. And the triple F process is about how we actually replace that thought. Guys, it's great to see you. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you guys out. Until then, you know what we believe. Results over excuses. Go out there and be unstoppable. I love you guys. Go crush it today.